Good morning, children. I'm Sunil Kumar. As you know, everyone, yet if somebody is unknown, for them I introduce myself. Today onwards, we are starting our online lessons. The first lesson I am going to deal with today is My Mother at 66, written by Kamala Das. Let me read this poem for you first. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me. Those open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away and looked out at the young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale, as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, "See you soon, Amma." All I did was smile and smile and smile. Now let me introduce the author for you, Kamala Das, as all of you know. She was one of the prominent feminist voices of the post-colonial era. On account of her extensive contribution to the poetry in our country, she earned the label the mother of modern English poetry. That is what she is famous for. She is known as the mother of modern Indian English poetry. Sometimes she is compared to the famous American poetess Sylvia Plath, because both these writers, both these poets, write about their personal problems. They sound some confessional style of writing. That's why she is compared with the famous American poetess Sylvia Plath. So don't forget the label that given to her by the English reading community in India. That is the mother of modern Indian poetry, Kamala Das, the mother of modern Indian English poetry. Before we go to the detailed analysis of the poem, let us learn something about the general aspect of the poem, the general tone of the poem. The poem is a deeply sensitive one, and it is a confessional poem. This is the general tone in which My Mother at 66 is written. It is deeply sensitive, and second thing is it is confessional. What does confessional here mean? It means the poet tells us about her own personal feelings. She shares her personal feelings with us. That's why this poem becomes confessional in form. It tells us about the subtle complexities between a mother and a daughter relationship. So that is the central theme on which this little poem is written. The subtle intricacies of a mother and a daughter relationship. Another thing that we have to remember about this poem is the entire poem, My Mother at 66, is written in a single sentence, but definitely not in a single thought. The poem also makes use of natural, unaffected rhythm and striking imagery and a sense of movement. These three things is very important to note. A natural rhythm. It is not following any rhyme scheme, but a natural rhythm is there in this poem. And second thing is striking imagery. That is what this poem is become a brilliant one. The use of imagery in it. And the third thing is a sense of movement that is described in it. All these, yes, all these poetic devices the poet used to convey the insecurities, the apprehensions, and the helplessness she felt. Why does she fail? Why does she feel all these things? This insecurity, this helplessness, and this apprehension, solely because of her aging mother. She is realizing the inevitable separation that follows because of the rapidly aging mother. The inevitable separation here means the awaiting end of the mother, simply the death. She expects her mother's death at any moment. So she feels that insecurity, apprehension, and helplessness. This is the frame on which this poem is pictured. Let us now move on to first four lines. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me. Simple to understand. Both the poet and her mother, they are traveling to Cochin, maybe in a car, and it happened the previous Friday morning. So during the journey, the poet noticed her mother. She was sitting beside her. This is what the first four lines tells us about. Those open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. Look at the. Now let us understand what does this mean. Doze. Doze means light sleep, a nap. And she dozes off with open mouth. And her face. Her face here means the face of the poet's mother. Ashen like that of a corpse. Ashen here means pale or discolored, like that of a corpse. Corpse means a dead body. And when she looks at the pale face of her aged mother, it immediately erects a feeling of pain in her, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked. And how does she look now? She looks like a corpse, which means she is in a diable age. That is the reason for her pain. Look at the next lines. But soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees, sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. The poet wants to remove the painful thought from her mind. So what she did, she looked outside through the window pane of the car in which she was traveling. And she looked outside, she saw the young trees sprinting. What is this young tree sprinting? When you are traveling in a speedy vehicle, The wayside tree seemed running behind you. That is what the young tree sprinting here means. A beautiful imagery. And the second thing she noticed was the merry children are spilling out of their homes. The merry children were spilling out of their homes. These two imageries used very brilliantly in the poem. Here we can notice the transition from the stillness of the dozing mother to the energetic life of the young trees and the merry children. Here, with the excellent use of the literary device of contrast, the poet brings out the distinctive features of two different worlds, separated by a window pane. The one world is the infirmity of the old age, and the other is the energetic, the merry world of the youth. Look at this phrase, young trees sprinting. What is the literary device used here? Sprinting is a verb that we use with humans. And this human quality is attributed with trees. So here the poet used the poetic device of personification. Young trees sprinting, that is personification. Look at the next line. The merry children spilling out of their homes. Look at the very next line. The merry children spilling out of their homes. Here also the poet used one poetic device. Spilling is a quality or a verb that we use to inanimate things. When you pour water into a container or a glass, if it overflows, it is known as spilling. So when we use the qualifier that is suitable only for inanimate things, that is given to a human. Here, the children can't spill out, they can come out from their homes. Many children are coming out of their homes, but the poet used here as children spilling out of their homes. So the poetic device used here is so the poetic device used here is chromorphism. Chromorphism is the poetic device used here, or we can say that zoomorphism. Zoomorphism is the poetic device used here. For our better understanding, up to here, we can divide this poem into two parts. Up to here is the first part. The poet coming from her home in a car along with her mother, and they are reaching up to the airport. This is the first phase of their journey. Let us move on to the second part of the poem. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale, as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. The poet has already reached the Cochin airport and completed her security check. She stands inside the security counter and looking at her mother once again. Standing a few yards away, looked again at her. She notices the wan, pale face again. Her mother is described here as wan, pale as a late winter's moon.